This week in the news, Rockstar goes 2 steps back, Valve's Steam machine pre-orders went live, and the layoffs will continue until morale improves. All this and more on this week's Old Man Rage Said the News. Before we get the show on the road, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content. Alright, let's rip the band-aid off. You all know GTA6 costs $80 for the standard edition, and the ultimate costs another $20. Now, it's a steep jump from $60 to $80. And let's not forget that the Ultimate Edition has some content that feels like gameplay locked behind it. Things like vehicle mod shops, something that was present in, well, off the top of my head, GTA San Andreas, as a baseline in the game, by the way. A clothing store, a hair salon, and a tattoo shop. Those things are also locked behind the Deluxe Edition. And coincidentally, this is also something that's baseline in San Andreas. Oh, but don't worry, you get a physical copy with the game, right? Well, the physical copy is just a code in a shiny box. Perfect. Keep in mind, this is a company that made millions off of console players from GTA Online. And they still couldn't find a way to make a proper physical copy of a game. Let that sink in for a moment. They spent over a decade working on this, and they couldn't find a way to make a physical copy worth it? Are you kidding me? Now, Rockstar did speak about having a disc, but that will be available in the second run in December. And knowing them, it's gonna be probably at a higher price too. Considering the shit they're pulling here, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Now, the weirdest part of all of this is that people are paying for pre-orders. Yes, pre-orders of this game on eBay. That's right, on fucking eBay. Fucking hell, man. How much brain damage do you have to buy pre-orders from eBay? Ugh. This is beyond me. Hell, look at this! Someone managed to upcharge the standard edition of the game with the deluxe edition price, and some poor fool actually bought it! What the fuck is this timeline going towards? Is this Idiocracy the prequel? Now, speaking of Idiocracy, Timmy2Cents thinks new multiplayer games are failing because players have no reason to leave their friend groups. Not only that, but he believes Unreal Engine 6 has the solution. To quote him, users tend to enjoy games with their actual friend groups, and it's nearly impossible to move that entire group of friends from an existing game to a completely new one. Only the massive mega hits that appear once every few years succeed in this community migration. This is the decisive reason why many multiplayer new releases have failed one after another. Users have already formed solid human networks in Fortnite, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and Apex Legends. There is no reason to leave friends behind and go to a new game alone. Alright, I'll give him a bone here. Yes, it's true on paper, but that's only true if you don't look at the bigger picture here. What I mean? The whole shit show of quote-unquote community migration is that there's too many live service log games that try to be the next big thing. And the very same live service log games also try to copy one another. And at this point, the moment they start mass copying something and don't do it better than the original, you don't have a good enough reason to leave the original. Hell, let's look at Call of Duty. Let's take that since the whole world is gonna be familiar with it. Let's hypothetically say they put in a rocket launcher. Now, excluding the fact if they have or not, since don't play the game, but let's say they put in a rocket launcher that fires and behaves like an actual rocket launcher. Now, a company sees that, makes generic team-based shooter 69, and puts in a rocket launcher. But instead of behaving and shooting like a rocket launcher, it behaves like firing a 9mm in Call of Duty. aka no recoil, no reaction, and does about as much damage as 9mm in Call of Duty. What's gonna be more fun? The ability to love tap somebody and their entire team in a structure, or an oversized 9mm. You get the point, right? There's no incentive to move from one game to another if the original game does what it does better. And also, this guy believes that using Unreal 6's cross-game social link is gonna work? What are we looking at here? A Persona game? No. Stick with me for a minute. He believes that using the cross-game social link that Unreal 6 is gonna come with will convince your friends to try a new game just because you can chat with them? Yo, Tim, let's be real here. If the game is shit, no amount of convincing is gonna convince someone to hop onto it. What you're implying here is just snake oil salesman tactics. Why? Let's see here. We have this Wumpus-shaped app called Discord, which, last time I checked, is also cross-platform, i.e. PlayStation, mobile, PC, and I think Xbox? I'm not so sure about the Xbox, but probably it is. I'll have to do some digging afterwards. But yeah, we already have the voice component that you're looking for in Unreal 6. And guess what? Those games that are made by people who have no idea what they're doing are not surviving. Hell, Discord casually points out what your friends are doing most of the time, and most friend groups already use it on a daily basis. And let's not mention TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, and other stuff that also survived the great Discord battles. Hell, there are also other alternatives to Discord and Teams that are currently being developed, but that's beside the point. My point here is, why would the same group that already has a voice app in use want something that would just amount to bloatware at best, useless at worst? Hell, to add insult to injury, both Valve and Blizzard launchers have built-in voice chat functions that, if you want to chill with your friends, you can, both in private calls and in group chats. Why do you want an engine-based chat system that, well, for lack of a better word, is trying to go into a crowded market at the moment? This ain't gonna get people to hop onto Unreal Engine 6, mate. When I can just press Shift-Tab, pop over to my friends list on Steam and be like, yo, wanna chat? Or better yet, just Alt-Tab and call anybody I wanna chat with, or just drop a message. Why would I want bloatware? I mean, why would anybody want bloatware on their computer at this point? It's beyond me, but hey, as usual, Timmy 2 Cents here is both underdressed and late to the party. Hell, let's address a PR statement here. As you can see, again, it's just trying to sell you that this new engine is the next best thing. Can boil eggs just by looking at it and probably makes killer toast at this point. Because, you know, it's the new shiny thing. Hell, before I move on to the next part, I just want to point something out. If Reddit, yes, Reddit of all places, roasts you for the inability to understand your player base, then mate, not only have you lost the plot, I'm pretty sure the plot already ran away with your girlfriend. Ugh. And because this is a case of Tim Sweeney, well, you can't have a story about Timmy 2 Cents here without him bitching and moaning about Steam in some way, shape, or form. And in this case, it's because Steam's AI disclosure is quote-unquote irresponsible, according to him. Now, I already lost a bunch of brain cells with the whole Steam machine situation, so I'm not gonna cover the whole thing here. So, what I'm gonna point out is, one, that there isn't any pushback at all by the reporter that brought this whole thing up. Like, PC Gamer just asked the question, let the guy ramble on, and on without stopping him or asking him a question. This whole thing reads out like a paid puff piece for crying out loud for his engine. Hell, this whole AI debacle is another case of Timmy over here not even understanding what the big problem is. Now, what I mean by all that? Well, PC Gamer asked him if it's a PR issue with AI, and he gave the example of Crazy Taxi, how people did a 180 when AI was shown, and get this, he talked about efficiency of AI hunting down code issues and dodged the question altogether. Hell, I'll give him that. He said it's not a PR question, it's about adoption, but PC Gamer had to reiterate the question yet again in order to get this quote. You're not going to create good art by giving a computer a prompt and have it spit out a mesh. You're going to get good art by an awesome artist using all the tools available to make it. Which, yes, I can get behind this. Correct message. The messenger has a lot to be desired from, especially as he isn't giving up on using AI to improve productivity, which, I mean, it's a whole other can of worms, so I'm not even gonna go into that. And to wrap up this whole AI disclosure bit, Tim said, so, it's unfortunate we're in this situation. It's unfortunate that so many developers are now put in this position. If you want to launch a game and get it as widely publicized as possible, you've got to put it on Steam so people can wishlist it. And if you want to play it on Steam, then you have to get this scarlet letter of AI attached to your product. And now there's a hater community trying to kill the game. I think it's really irresponsible for Valve. They shouldn't do it because it makes it much harder for a game developer to have a chance of success if you have to choose from either not using tools that can make you way more productive and probably failing due to competition that does. Yet again, not understanding the whole situation. Well, yes, according to him, it's irresponsible to inform customers on what they're buying. Hell, I'm not saying the hate isn't there. I mean, it is. People don't like stuff developed with AI and they're gonna bitch and moan about it, not buy the product. It's their choice. Just like with food companies, you have a nutrition label on them, on any food product. You know, just go to your fridge. If something's in a package or in a can, you'll find a nutrition label there. And keeping with that example, what Timmy 2 Cents over here wants is basically that nutrition label gone. Jeez. What's with this guy? It's like Valve and Gaben are specifically living in his head rent-free. I mean, that would explain why he instantly jumped on Valve with this mega yak joke a few weeks ago. Oh boy. This guy needs to get off the internet at least for a week, if not a month, to get some self-reflecting done on his unhealthy obsession with Gabe and Valve. And speaking of Valve, SteamOS 3.8 is out, and you can make your own Steam machine using whatever PC parts you want because of the improved compatibility with Intel and AMD. Now, there are a few things I want to go over. So first off, I'm going to start with SteamOS. Since the Steam machine, as I mentioned earlier, well, let's put it like that, I have a lot of things to say about it. Now, getting back on topic, The Verge held an interview with Valve's Pierre-Luc Griffiths, or however you pronounce it at this point. Griffiths? Pierre-Luc Griffiths? I don't know. Pierre-Luc. Or Valve's Pierre. Let's call him that. Because I'm gonna butcher this the more I try. Where he mentioned improving SteamOS to be compatible with desktop hardware and eventually add NVIDIA graphics support. Mind you, this is something very big, especially with NVIDIA's track record with Linux drivers. Spoiler alert, is bad. But anyways, I digress. Griffiths mentioned the possibility of dual booting SteamOS with another OS, but it's not possible yet. And I'll be honest, with what I saw from the review Gamers Nexus did of the Steam machine, SteamOS has a lot of room to grow before it's ready for mass adoption. But this is Valve we're talking, and they are still pumping out updates for their last Steam machine thing they released a good while back. So they aren't exactly abandoning this thing. Now, speaking of the Steam machine itself, I'm gonna go over the technical stuff first, especially pricing and whatnot, and then I'm gonna go on a rant. Now, if somebody doesn't want to listen to it, it's gonna be timestamped, so you can skip that if you want. Hell, that's why it's at the end of this whole segment, not in the middle of it. The 512GB variant costs $1,049 or €1,039. With controller, it costs $1,028 or €101,008, while the 2TB version costs $1,349 or €1,359. With controllers, that goes to $1,428 or euro. You heard me right. The 2TB version of the Steam machine costs more in the EU without a controller. Now, anyone who wanted to grab one of those and enter the reservation pool prior to the 25th of June at 10 a.m. Pacific will enter a randomizer reservation list. What that means is they'll be the first ones to get the Steam machine. Now, anyone past that point, aka anyone who watches this video and thinks let's go there, will be put at the end of the queue. And mind you, this is for a reservation, meaning you'll be put in line and you get an email saying it's ready when it's your turn. After you get that email, just like with the Steam controller, you have 72 hours to respond after obtaining the email. Now, Valve still believes that the Steam machine is an extension to PC gaming and not a console, and also emphasized that in the same post. And to quote, "The traditional console model is to sell hardware at a loss and make up the revenue with subscription services or by selling games that are locked into the hardware. We think this can make sense for a single business in the short term, but that open ecosystems are better for customers over the long term. PC gaming's history proves this. The openness of the PC gaming space has enabled it to be the primary driver for hardware and software innovation for decades. And as if you caught a small child with its hand in a cookie jar, using the Wayback Machine, someone discovered that Valve changed the description of their core features on both the CPU and GPU. It got changed from 4K gaming and 60 FPS to just 4K gaming. And because, scalpers love to scalp, reservations are also fetching a massive markup on eBay, just like with GTA6. Dexerto showed offers of reservations being sold for $27,000 and another one for close to $29,000 for the 2TB model. So basically double the markup. And that's just great. Can the scalpers have their nuts chopped off at this point? Let's be honest here, people. Chances are most of these guys don't even have a Steam machine reservation in place. If they do, odds of it being just one reservation is very high. Effectively, you're pissing away your money. So I would strongly advise from doing any reservations through eBay. That's for sure. Anyways, that's the news segment over. Now, it's time to rant. Again, if you don't want to hear the rant, use timestamps to go to the next segment or a segment of your choice. At the end of the day, there are multiple reviews of the Steam machine. And if you want to get one, by all means, go for it. If you like what you see on a review, I'm not gonna stop you. It ain't my job to tell you what to spend your money on at the end of the day. Now, with that out of the way, Let's address the elephant in the room. Valve fucked up the price royally, especially for the hardware on offer. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, let's look at the 2TB model as a price breakpoint, or like the 512GB model for that. I mean, you're looking at hardware that's trading blows with the RTX 3060 12GB version. For AMD, that's around the RX 7600, and for Intel, the Arc A770. Now, if you have anything more powerful than that, aka RX 7600 XT, RTX 5050, RTX 4080, or Arc B580 and such, you get flat out better performance. Hell, at this point, if anybody wants to get a Steam machine as a daily driver, I'd say you're better off just getting a pre-built PC, because 9 times out of 10, unless it's using a custom case and it uses a standard ATX case or mid-tower, small factor, as long as it's not something custom, chances are you'll be able to swap out the parts one by one and get better performance, especially over a course of a couple of years, especially with these prices. And since SteamOS is now publicly released, you don't even have to worry about recreating the Steam machine. You can just make one on your end, get the software up and running, and as long as you're not using NVIDIA drivers, you're good to go. And yeah, I get it. Gabe and Valve don't want to go down the route of Microsoft with an Xbox or Sony and PlayStation. That's fine, but that's not enough for the life of me to look at hardware that was released in between 2019 and 2023 as a good price point. Hell, at this point, I'd much rather throw that amount of money into a GPU on my machine and say, hey, look, I got a better performance out of it. Hell, at this point, it's better to get like a upgrade on your existing rig, since chances are it's going to cost about as much as a Steam machine, and get better performance. And don't get me started with how some Steam machines are shipping with 1 stick of RAM instead of 2. And if you're not technically minded, if you have 2 sticks of RAM, aka if you're running a dual channel configuration, you get better performance on the RAM compared to running a single stick of memory at the same capacity. Now, I'm gonna give them a bone here. It's not up to Valve if they get 1 stick of RAM that's 16 gigabytes or 2 sticks of RAM that are 8 gigabytes each. Hell, they even went on record about it, and that's not up to them what RAM they get. Literally, their suppliers go, this is how much RAM we have, you interested in buying it at this price, yes or no? Yeah, considering data centers are eating up RAM faster than manufacturers can produce it, I'm not gonna hold this over Valve's head. Hell, right now they're basically in the same boat everybody's at in terms of RAM and NAND memory in general. Now, where I'll push back is where Valve didn't want to subsidize the Steam machine, especially when they used the closed ecosystem as a defense. What I see here is a clear case of Steam being able to run on multiple operating systems. I'm pretty sure you can load Steam on almost anything at this point and get access to all the games you have in your library, regardless of if it's Steam OS, Windows, Linux. Hell, you can probably get games to run on Mac at this point. So Valve effectively with that is just, well, cutting out a large portion of people from being able to provide feedback on and get SteamOS to improve. I mean, just think about it. If, let's say, 2TB version with controllers was $1,000, it would have been an easier sell, no matter how you look at it, and would generally align with what the hardware outputs. Now, I wouldn't say it would still be ideal, but it would sure as shit be better than the current price. Not to mention they can probably offset the loss on this just from their Steam store alone. But that's just me guessing with what Valve are pulling from the store on every transaction they have there. Ultimately, the way I see it, Valve could have been selling the Steam machine at a loss to get improvements to SteamOS to roll it out to more people quickly and start improving it to get better adoption. Because at this point, there are a lot of people that are looking to basically get off of Windows as fast as possible. Hell, Microsoft announced they're going to be extending Windows 10 support because people aren't migrating to Windows 11, so, there's that. But anyways, this is going to go on for another hour if I continue like that, so I'm going to just end it here. But what I'll pick up with is a surprise to no one. Xbox's CEO said that gaming is becoming unaffordable for many players. Oh boy, you don't say. She said on Entertainment Weekly, and to quote her, gaming is unaffordable in many cases in terms of how we've traditionally thought about it, because of the tension, economy, and competing subscriptions. Finally, someone admitted that subscriptions are ass. But I still have issues with all of this. Xbox raised the console prices and discontinued the 2TB version of the Series X. Yes, they made a price increase. Color me surprised. The 512GB version of the console is increased by $100, while the 1TB model gets $150 price increase worldwide starting the 1st of August, in about a month's time, give or take. And because, it's a case of shit where you eat here, Microsoft mentions how memory and storage costs have more than doubled and also says they are expected to double again by fall of 2027. I'm not gonna go off topic here. Why? Because this came a day later after the CEO mentioned it became unaffordable. By the way, thanks Microsoft. Thanks, Copilot. You sure as shit aren't helping with the price of NAND memory. Just buy it up like mad and reserve future sales of it. To add insult to injury, you can also now use the buy now, pay later option to buy your consoles, because that sure as shit ain't gonna increase their cost because of interest. Hell, Amazon customers will also have access to a 0% APR financing for up to 12 months on eligible hardware purchases. And get this, they also introduced a console program with retail partners where customers can trade their Xbox console for cash or store credit, with the traded in consoles selling for a lower price. Now, anybody who has a functioning brain cell here is gonna just ask this question: when will get someone complain they got a console that was hardware banned online because somebody wasn't able to keep their yap shut in a Call of Duty lobby? Let's be real here. This is gonna happen at one point the moment this console program with Xbox takes off. They're gonna have a 12-year-old was hardware banned in Call of Duty for calling someone the N-word or something else. Then he trades it in, gets store credit, pays the price difference and store credit for another Xbox console, and he's back on Call of Duty. Some poor schmuck bought the lower priced console thinking, hey, I can finally play Call of Duty, only to find that the damn thing is hardware banned. Because that hasn't happened in the past, right? And in other news, EA laid off an unknown amount of people ahead of the sale to Saudi Arabia. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind something. This is Kotaku, so take it with a grain of salt. Because we all know Kotaku sometimes takes the piss out of everything they write and over-exaggerates things. Anyways, these layoffs impact its recruitment, customer support, trust and safety, and AI teams. Now, Kotaku learned it from their sources as well as 12 public postings from individuals impacted by those layoffs. They also claim to have seen an email that was sent to EA's customer support team in which it contained, as part of this evolution, we are making or proposing to make changes to some roles, creating new roles, and moving certain work to different teams, locations, or service partners. Not to be left out of all this, Compulsion Games, known for the game South of Midnight, got hit with layoffs as well. I'm not surprised considering that game was mid as all hell, and Sweet Baby Inc. was involved with it, so yeah, the Sweet Baby Inc. kiss of death strikes again here. But anyways, Reps Gaming reported this on X, showing 4 LinkedIn posts by former Compulsion Games employees. Well, we all know where that's going. And if you guessed Bungie, you'll be correct because they're also having layoffs. Because at this point, this is also something that happens every other week. Sony issued a warn notice, which was reported by GameFile, that revealed 292 staff will be let go on the 9th of July, with these numbers not accounting for staff outside of Washington State. Not only that, but Jason Schreier reported that the head of Bungie, Justin Truman, also stepped down. The former vice president of operations, Poria Turkan, will lead the studio now. If Marathon's new PvE mode doesn't work out for them, I think it's safe to say we can kiss Bungie's ass goodbye. And to wrap up the week, because Valve stole a lot of time here, Nintendo did something good and gave thousands of employees a 10% salary raise. Shuntaro Furukawa confirmed this at the annual shareholder meeting that they raised the base salary for all employees in Japan by 10%. Holy shit, Nintendo doing something good for someone. I must be dreaming. Anyways, good on the employees. At least Nintendo's looking out for them. And on that good note, we'll wrap up this week's Old Man Rages at the News. Again, like the content if you like it, and I'll see you all next week.